welcome everyone. Glad to be here for a second year. Quite an honour to be able to stand in front of you and speak to my peers about the journey that Carwoola Pastoral Company's been on in this space. Just want to briefly give you a rundown very quickly of Carwoola Pastoral Company. As Darren mentioned, 4 properties under management there, east of Canberra, north of Yass in New South Wales. Self-replacing Angus herd of about 900 odd breeders. We operate in the trade cattle and restocker markets, first cross ewes, sort of 10 to 15,000 ewes depending on season. Generally 4,000 lambs going through to contracts with the likes of Coles or Woolworths or so forth. The remainder go to store lamb markets. We have a winter fodder cropping and centre pivot irrigation system there. Small full-time staff of only 4, including myself, and we utilise contract labour as required. Topography ranges from river flats up to a bit more steep country, as listed there. 700mm rainfall. I don't know when we've last had that, but that's the rumour. And a frost feed period relatively short of 4.5 months. So that's a snapshot of what's under management at Carwoola. I've got a short video for you. Have a look at this and then we'll have another chat.
A dairy cow that talks to farmers. What kind of sorcery is that? It's not the magic wand kind. It's the RFID collar and Internet of Things kind we created with Chitley Dairy. So every cow can let farmers know how she feels and what she needs to be healthier. All with a simple text. Ta-da! Magic can't make digital transformation happen, but we can. That's the power of VMware, part of Dell Technologies.
So that'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? We've got a dairy cow at home in Jersey and she can kind of talk to us, but after that, it doesn't really happen. So this is kind of the over-the-top view of digital tech in agriculture. That's the ultimate, I guess, that some people consider that might be available. Take you back 12 months, MLA approached Carwoola Pastoral Company to be involved with Red Meat 18. So I'll give you a bit of a snapshot again of what we've done in that project. And the theme overwhelmingly was separating what we've seen in the media as hype to what's really available and commercial in the market. As Darryl alluded to, I've been working in this industry for a fair while now, and some of these things that I've heard about 30 odd years ago continually come up and are presented as being ready and commercial. And so separating the media, the hype from the happening was the role. So MLA came down and looked at Carwoola as a place to host and evaluate the various digital technologies that are out there, provide a site for industry to visit site and have a look, not unlike went on at Windy yesterday, allow installation of new and emerging tech that presents itself across the 3-year period of the program, and establish what works and what doesn't in a commercial environment, and then hopefully provide insight to levy payers and producers across the industry as to whether or not there's actually a return on investment and business change availability. So MLA went out to numerous tech suppliers and with an open call, if you've got something, bring it along. And it was very much a case of, let's put a device in and let's see if we can find a problem. And that's not what we do in the real world, but that was what we needed to do to establish whether or not systems were viable and if it was actually ready to roll out within our business. So there's a bit of a schematic. We've now got around 400 odd individual devices across the business. Put some perspective around that. That includes 220 odd cattle tags, so they're a digital device in themselves, but quite a heavy rollout of digital stuff, which is a bit atypical of what most businesses would do, of course, but this is a project environment. So the installed solutions are listed there. Water is often the highest problem point that producers are experiencing issues with, weather and water. weather and rain gauges at least. And we just go through the list. I won't read them all to you, but we also installed a large variety of connectivity solutions. Not that Carwoola necessarily needed them, but to test how they worked in this space. As Darryl said yesterday, and there was a bit of discussion around at Windy at one of the tours, there is a solution for every connectivity need, but we wanted to understand what that looked like and how it does actually operate in the real world. And we established, you just can't go out there once you've found your problem and you've found something to install. You just can't install the sensor and away it goes. There's probably a minimum investment required. You're going to need some communication towers. There's going to be a monthly or annual device fee that goes along with each of these solutions. So it's not just like going and picking it up off the shelf and, for the most part, and finding something that works. There are exceptions to that, of course, but these things do cost some money. Providers came along with a variety of different approaches. Many providers didn't know how they were going to install when they arrived. They didn't know what our troughs looked like. Were they all the same? Every gateway is a different shape, bent gates, leaning posts. So they were really good at working on the run and continue to do so with the Romani rollout and adapt to what is in front of them. But it does sort of come as a little bit of a surprise when they arrive and they don't really know. But the adaptive nature of their businesses allow them to do these things. Probably the key photo here is the bottom right-hand corner. So putting some protection around these devices was one of the big take-home messages that providers learnt from this and we kind of expected would happen. But I don't know about your cattle, but mine see something new in the paddock and kick up the heels and away they go. We want to rub on that, we want to chew on it. So protecting these pieces of gear is really highly important. So that's one of the other interesting outcomes of all that. When I started the journey, I sort of said to MLA, look, I just don't want 20 apps. I don't want 20 programs that I need to look at. So my focus was trying to build out of this program an overall, a universal type dashboard or platform to report all of this stuff in one go. So MLA encouraged all of the providers to work together and share data. And that overall worked really well in the end. My view on the overall platform has changed slightly over the year. I think there's still a really great role for that. But I found that when I wanted to deep dive on the analytics of certain things, to have access to an individual platform was really, really important and really quite, you just had to have it. So it was great to be able to revert back to those and get into it. So a lot of them are map-based, as you can see there. Take a little bit of learning, to navigate properly, but again, providers are willing to give you those training sessions to get the best out of it. So the big question is, what is the digital value proposition? So these things cost a fair bit of money sometimes. Is there actually return on investment? Is there actually a business change that we can get out of it? So I'm going to speak to these following solutions and actually present some of the findings that I've gathered through the business over the year. This is not the full extent of devices and installs that we've put in. This is probably just a snapshot to give you some idea that in fact there is really quite a positive view on return on investment and business change. So water solutions. Currently we've got 40 sensors installed across the Carwoola property alone. Across the broader business there's far more than that. At Carwoola itself we're monitoring dams and troughs, tanks, much like everybody is interested in knowing. We've also got 8 kilometres of the Molonglo River runs through Carwoola and it floods sometimes. Not for a while again, but it's nice to have a flood level detection in place. Allows us a little bit of an early warning system to move livestock off. Again, the connectivity space there was covered by LoRaWAN, Sigfox, 3G, a satellite option as well. And they've all worked equally well, so I'm not here to present to you which is the best option. I'm just saying to you in general that all the water sensing solutions have worked very, very well. This is a snapshot of the dashboard for one provider, and I've got a screen video here of me working through the dashboard just as we talk about it. So typically at Carwoola, a regular water run is checking 5 tanks, 9 troughs and half a dozen dams, so 20 odd areas. Travelling about 14 kilometres, it takes me roughly an hour to do that water run. In the summer we're doing that 7 days a week, as you guys all would be in the drought as well. Obviously during the cooler parts of the year it's not quite as much. So annually I'm looking at about 180 days, and I've worked out that the average cost of the business is just under $20,000. Now, when you start working this stuff out, it's really surprising the cost of these things. So, you know, it's a hefty cost. What I've been able to do is reduce the need to go to these troughs so regularly by 70%. So that's quite a good payback in 12 months. I've been able to achieve that. None of these things excuse the need to go to the paddock all the time. So we still do some physical checks. Obviously we need to do that. What it does is it gives me a really, really good early warning system on issues. You can see there, I've just snapped into one particular sensor. It's showing me what the water level has done, gone up or down. And in this short clip, I've done the water run. The other really, really good thing about this is that I can do this from anywhere. So I was very fortunate to travel overseas. A few months ago, went to Canada. I was watching it from there. This morning I can look at it as well. It's not that I'm a control freak, I just like to have a level of understanding. So I found that to be a great level of comfort. It's also really good to not actually have to drive down the paddock every day, because it's not actually a place we all want to be right now. So to be able to give myself a bit of a mental break from actually driving through it, opening 20 gates, you know, that's really giving me a little bit of a break mentally as well. So there's another really good positive. You know, again, with the river level thing, you know, the peace of mind that I get from realising that the river's coming up, you know, it's invaluable. So cattle handling equipment's the next one on the list here. We've got a feeder cattle operation within the business, generally weighing our cattle every 4 to 6 weeks. Mob sizes range from 100 to 160 head. A manual weigh and draft has taken 3 staff for the processing, and we're doing about 60 to 80 head per hour. We're doing a manual RFID scanning to track our weight gains, and you know, moving backwards and forwards from the weighing area to adjust a drafting gate. There's a hell of a lot of walking. I'm getting old. I don't want to walk that far anymore. So we've put in a Tapari auto drafting system. Again, here's a bit of a clip of it working while I talk to you about it. This has been really efficient. It's an air operated weigh bar underneath the crush system, 3-way drafting module at the front, auto opening and closing of all the gates. I've got it currently linked to a Gallagher system. We've lifted our rate of drafting to 200 an hour from 60 to 80. I've also dropped a labour unit off that job. I'm operating this crush from about 15 metres away. In fact, the crush is working itself. There's one gate I'm operating from 15 metres away, so I'm now loading the race while this is happening. We've got an auto RFID scanner going on there. It's linking weight gains automatically into the Gallagher system. For the most part, the cattle walk through very quietly, calmly. In fact, less interaction from a human is actually sometimes a heap better. That's not to say I didn't. You'll see me pop up in a minute. but highly accurate, highly consistent reporting, and a really, really good throughput. The value of these sort of systems is quite high, so paybacks, you know, it takes some time, but the reality is dropping off that labour unit, and the speed with which we are able to get through the program is really starting to pay back. The other really good thing about this, and some automatic crushers don't work well manually, this particular one can be used manually as well, so there's the added advantage there. So another one, smart animal tags. So, you know, we're hearing a few of these around, and that's great. We've got, you know, a reasonably large herd of cows. We've been looking for, you know, some animal health aspects that we can monitor through these. Helpful to track some cattle movement for us as well. Tracking bulls during joining has been identified as one of our, you know, key uses of this sort of tech. I think there's significant productivity increases here. And just understanding some grazing patterns has been a bit of a highlight out of this particular device. You'll see here that this particular device allows us to track individuals or groups of animals. It's very quick and easy to get a snapshot of what the herd's doing. Mob position and activity is very interesting. In terms of the bulls, I think this is where the biggest return on investment and business change can come. I'm not sure if you can see what's up there, but that's actually tracking how far the animal has moved in a period of time. If I could identify bulls that are not moving about the herd in a little bit more of an analytic way, and increase my calving percentage by just 5%, 5 calves over a calving, weaner's worth, say, let's say $700, $3,500 per 100 cows, across 1,000 cows at least, you know, it's $35,000, not to be sneezed at. When you go and look at your bulls in the paddock, you all know as soon as you go past, he looks fine. You might go and serve one cow, go, oh, my back's bad, and go and sit down under the tree. You can't be watching him 24/7, but this can help to highlight that perhaps a bull's got an issue, swap him out, and potentially increase your calving percentages. The other interesting thing here is the group tracking of a mob. And you can see them all coming to a particular point. They're actually supplement stations that they're all coming to. But it's showing this is an open paddock, so there's 5 paddocks, but the gates are all open due to the drought. It's a fair bit of the place they're not going anywhere near. So it helps us to highlight, apart from a visual assessment, that perhaps we move some lick feeders and we can get them to get across some more country. Or are they flogging something out? We need to shut a gate. So some useful management information there for us. Next thing I'd like to speak to is soil probes and irrigation scheduling. So Carwoola has two 23 hectare centre pivots. We're growing lucerne under one and perennial rye under another. And we need to understand the weather and soil moisture relationship, match this to the paddock and crop requirements. And we want to get a greater accuracy in scheduling our irrigation events. It's expensive to irrigate. We want to do it the best way possible. We want to affect change to the way our pastures or our lucerne crop is reacting. And we want to refine those to a point where we maximise our water use efficiency. This screenshot's a little bit busy, so bear with me please, but what it's highlighting is we're able to actually look at various data points at a particular soil probe. And that part of the screen there, the red line across it with the blue line undulating, that is our refill point. So you can see where I've done an irrigation, it's lifted it up and it's slowly drawn down. I'm able to now look at this and start to plan my scheduling of irrigation around this information. I can look at any point on that line and give me some ideas. I've got rainfall data coming through there. Is it having an effect or not? Sometimes you think it does. Obviously it didn't. We're looking at some water use efficiency stuff at various depths. Soil moisture and soil temperature have a bit of a relationship there as well, as does the daytime temperature. But the key take home for me is, rather than waiting to see my plants are looking a bit wilted, or I've got a particularly hot 3 or 4 days coming and I know I'm going to water anyway, I can start to plan what level of watering I need to do. And I haven't seen a stress loosened plant since I've been working with these sort of tools. So it's really starting to maximise our growth and also dictate when I am using the most expensive part of our business, and that's the irrigators. Satellite pasture measurement. So, there's been a lot of focus in the industry over the last few years about measuring pasture and food on offer and total standing dry matter and so forth. So as a grazing business, we're constantly measuring it, and we need to. It better equips us for our management decisions, both from a livestock point of view and a pasture management point of view. And we're spending considerable time each month assessing and measuring the pastures. But we need to be quite accurate and have objective measurement rather than a bit of a subjective measurement out the window of the ute at 30 k's an hour. This is a product, a satellite product, Seabay Labs, which were there yesterday as well. On average, we're spending about 6 hours a month at the moment assessing pastures per property. So 24 hours across the business. Cost estimate, we're looking at about $700 an assessment event per property. So $8,500 per annum. The beauty of a product like this is that I'm able to reassess this every week because it's re-evaluating and reporting quite regularly. When I get really, really busy like you all do with feeding and all the rest of it, sometimes we don't do this. So actually this enables me to continue to do everything else that I have to do and do our pasture measurements. So in the 90 seconds that this clip runs, we're actually doing 6 measurements, 6 paddocks. There's no way I could do that fast. I can do this when I'm eating my Wheat Bix in the morning. It's a fantastic tool. If we can connect this then to a feed budgeting tool of some description, we're getting some really, really powerful information. Again, this is another one of those mental health things for me. If I don't have to necessarily go and have a look at a paddock, I can just, step back from that a little bit, still get some information. It doesn't tell you the quality of the pasture. It doesn't tell you the content of the pasture. There's still stuff you have to do visually. But you intuitively know your properties better than anyone else. You'll know what's in those paddocks anyway. So you've got lots of information already in your mind to help you make some decisions. We're using this currently in our business. We're still validating, we're still building, the accuracy of this program in our business. But it's a really, really good thing. It's enabling all the staff, and Carwoola's not looking to reduce staff, we're looking to retrain and upskill our staff. So everyone's getting into all of this stuff, learning this pretty valuable stuff. The other thing that I've found with this is that it's helping me make some decisions around ground cover coverage during a drought as well. So we've all got levels in our mind of where we want our pasture and our ground cover to sit. This is really helpful from that perspective. So we've done some drone tech work with a company called Aerodyne. They're out in the main room, and I'll just show you this short clip, and then we'll speak to it. So this sort of tech is really, really interesting. We're starting to see some really objective counting of livestock, not just large animal, but calves at foot, weed identification, fence checking. If we get a big blow, we can send a drone on a scheduled flight and have a look at some fences. Even if we can reduce the identification or detection of weeds by 60%. If I can have 30-40% of my fences checked when we've had a big storm, these are all things that I can better utilise my labour elsewhere by grabbing this information. It also has an ability to work as your data transfer connectivity space as well. So there's some really positive things happening with the drone tech, and I can only imagine how we are going to look in the future with all these fantastic innovations. So the visions for the future are really positive. I mean, I think what we've done at Carwoola has really started to make some big changes to our business. There is return on investment that's available from using this gear, but there's still a lot of things out there that we've heard about, and it'd be great to be able to implement these and assess them, and maybe come back in 12 months and say, this is what we've discovered. And things that are on the list are walkover weighing systems. They're very popular in the north, not so much in the south of the state where I am. I think that we have a purpose and a business change opportunity using walkover weighing, so we're going to have a look at that. More new smart tags for sheep and cattle. Again, it's that investment in your livestock. It's massive. We all want to know whether there's distress or ill health, so we can focus on our systems and promote a healthy and well managed industry. Virtual fencing is slated to test in the new year at Carwoola under a centre pivot, and then doing some riparian management work with virtual fences. Big focus at the moment across the ditch around riparian management. That will only come this way. So this is a really good opportunity to look at those sort of things. Some advanced irrigation solutions that can link to soil moisture data and perhaps do some automatic scheduling or some variable rate applications. I think that there's plenty of scope there. Autonomous electric vehicles could work hand in hand with a drone and perhaps do some weed spraying, and we know that there's those sort of machines starting to appear. I think there's a lot of work that could be done there. Augmented reality, it says drone tech, we've talked about that, but augmented reality is also a really interesting space. I've got a clip of that in a minute. A really interesting way of gathering your data on the run while you're moving around your property, and I find that really cool and very helpful. Link it all together with the high-level interactive reporting and analysis platforms. That space just keeps growing, and there's some really clever guys working on that stuff. And just continue to build the ROI and business change messages for industry to give you guys all confidence that that this stuff is worth doing. I think you start at a small spot and you start to scale it. I think once you're in there and you've tried it and you see the returns and identify your pain points and address them, I just don't see anybody going back from that. So just to finish, this is the augmented reality video. It was pretty cold the day we filmed it, so I apologise for the dodgy beanie and the coat. But I really hope you do take home from this that this is a positive experience. Try it out yourselves, and I wish you the best of luck on it. So we'll finish with this slide, and then I'll hand back to Darren.